What does inclusive leadership look like in the medtech innovation ecosystem?
It looks like being open to, yeah, just being open to listening, more listening, less talking. Um,
How does indie medtech help professionals maximize the potential beyond the traditional career path?
yeah, I love that question because that's really at the heart of why we started indieMedTech in the first place. I can tell you that, most people probably get.
Welcome to Life Science Insights Podcast. I'm your host Sandal Karnanidhi. Today, I'm excited to welcome Holly Cotter, the founder of Indie MedTech and a White Lab Medtech Consulting. Today, I'm excited to welcome a leader who is deeply focused on connecting medtech professionals, building meaningful partnerships, and empowering industry experts to reach their full potential. With over a decade of hands on experience across global medical devices, she brings a deep expertise in navigating complex regulatory landscapes. And thank you for joining us, Oli.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. So, can you start by telling us a bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a background in education and biomedical engineering from University of Pittsburgh. For a while, I really thought that I was going to be more involved in the clinical side. I thought I was going to go to PA school or medical school, and so consequently worked in quite a lot of clinical environments directly with patients. One of my later roles was with the artificial heart program at UPMC, where I got to actually support patients in clinic that had LVADs. And it was a wonderful experience. And I learned about all the LVADs that they had. I was trained in them, but I was a bit more interested in the actual device itself and a little bit less in the clinical management. So I ended up, trying my degree on a bit more and working in a small startup company and working with some fantastic people there, both those that were part of the company as well as consultants who really taught me everything kind of from the ground up about medical devices and US, EU, international regulations, and really seeing a product from
Okay.
conception to actual shelves. So that was kind of where I got my start. I wanted to really dig in a little bit more in regulatory. So I worked for a larger organization in regulatory, both sustaining new product development and some emergency use authorization work during COVID. And it was definitely a great experience. I missed a little bit though of wearing the different hats that I experienced between when working at the startups. So clinical and regulatory and quality. I always kind of had an inkling that I would really enjoy consulting. So I then transitioned to a consulting firm and was there for about 4 years. I love consulting. I love being a consultant. I just wanted a bit more, control over my projects and my clients and things like that. So over the last year, I've gone in that direction and have also in the process identified a need for bringing together a lot of the expertise that already exists in the medtech world into a focused community, which is how I was part of the co-founding of Indie MedTech.
Okay. Yeah, that's an inspiring journey.
Yeah.
What inspired the creation of Indie MedTech and what
Yeah.
industry gap are you aiming to solve?
Yeah, absolutely. So in transitioning from a larger organization, like a larger consulting organization, you lose so much collective knowledge and access to subject matter experts. The reality is that no matter how much experience, you don't know it all, right? So having those subject matter experts at your fingertips and well-developed templates, things like that, is always very helpful and critical to being an effective consultant. And so in my journey transitioning out of a larger organization, along with some other very good friends and seasoned consultants, kind of realized that there is a need to find a way to, consolidate that expertise and create a community. I was very lucky to have the community that I did at that time when I was making that transition. Otherwise, I might not have had the confidence to do that.
Okay.
And me and co-founder Nikki Spaniel, we both realized how critical those connections were to our overall journey. And we just wanted to bring a platform that enabled that for others. So they could maybe take on different roles or take on new clients or think anything, with feeling like they have a support system behind them. So that was kind of the inspiration around
Okay.
indieMedTech. Was really trying to bring the medtech industry together in one place, where we could support each other.
Okay. That's good. You describe more than a platform, right? What does community truly mean in the medtech space?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that the system or the software, I'm sorry, not software, but the website is designed is it is both a community, but it's also a marketplace. So it's not only community where you can ask questions, and share work and solve problems together, but it also is a opportunity for independent consultants or solution partners to advertise their support to those who may need it. So, the expertise already exists in med tech, right? The problem is that it's just disconnected.
Right.
LinkedIn's wonderful.
Mm.
Conferences are fantastic, but sometimes it's a lot to wade through, right? So we really wanted to try and create a little bit of an ecosystem, a standalone ecosystem, where people can ask those tough questions
Okay.
and maybe explore different opportunities and collaborate, solve problems together. So it's really a network that's built on trust, credibility, shared purpose, and access to each other.
Yeah. It's good, a very good network.
Thank you.
How do regulatory expectations differ across region? And how do you help clients navigate that complexity?
Ooh, that's a very, very good question. It is definitely something that clients and manufacturers of all sizes are struggle with, right? So ideally we would have one harmonized regulation that applies to all regions. Unfortunately, that's not where we are. There is a lot of efforts to become more standardized. You'll see with the shift from quality system regulation to quality management system regulation for FDA, to align closer with 13485. There are, harmonization activities going on, but obviously we're not quite there yet. And it really takes having the regulatory and quality support that has experience in those
Mm.
areas and is also up to date on some of the, has their finger on the pulse of changes in those regulations to be able to adequately support. That was another reason why we really wanted to have that focus community, was because, like I said before, no one knows everything. So you might be supporting a client and they have a question pop up about Canada, but that's not your area of expertise. And the idea is that you can
Right.
hop on to indieMedTech and put out a little bat signal. Hey, does anybody, can someone help me real quick on this,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So that was really the inspiration for it, but also because it is so complex
Complex.
and varied, that you can't do it alone. And I think that regulatory especially. And just to note also, one thing that was important to us, I come from a regulatory quality clinical
Right.
background, but we can't operate in silos either, right? We need the support of software, cybersecurity, design and development. So the other thing that was very important to us was creating a platform that wasn't just for regulatory folks, but
Mm.
actually for the bringing together people from all disciplines of the medtech industry, because the regulatory quality is just one part of it, and our ultimate goal is to have a community that can support each other ultimately in helping manufacturers get safer, more effective products to market. So really wanted to make sure it was multidisciplinary.
Medtech can be highly competitive. How do you foster authentic collaboration in that environment?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It can be, especially when you're in the consulting space, right?
Okay. Mm.
Everybody would love to win all the contracts. But I think the reality is that there's so much work out there.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And when you take on a client, you want to have the right fit with that client, and that has to go both ways, right? So, I think that have been countless times where a client has come through me or through someone that I partner with. It's maybe not a good fit for them, or it could be if they brought me on board. So it opens opportunities for collaboration. So I really see first. There are so many manufacturers who need support from consultants. And second, these opportunities provide other opportunities for collaboration. And that collaboration opens up more opportunities for different consultants, right?
Okay.
So, um, yes, there are firms that are obviously bidding with other types of clients. But in my world, especially transitioning into more of an independent landscape,
Mm.
you know, there's a bit of a matchmaking there. Some, especially startups, they have different interests in the types of consultants that they work with.
Okay.
So I have found that most of the time it's very collaborative and kind of sharing the wealth a bit, just because there is so much work out there, and working with an independent consultant has a lot of benefits
Benefits,
for
correct.
sure.
But what makes a partnership successful in the medical tech world?
Yeah, really good question. I think especially for the startup clients and that are, smaller organizations, one of the most important things to keep in mind as a consultant, no matter who you're consulting with,
Mm.
is bringing solutions and not just problems, right? Especially
Okay.
business balance solutions. So that's something that I really focus on is, trying to actively solve problems with them that are with solutions that are commensurate to their size, their risk, of their devices and things like that. I think it can be very easy to get in your head that something should be done a certain way.
Mm.
But if you really know the regulations and you understand what it takes to be compliant, you can actually get creative and develop sustainable solutions for your clients. And I think that's the key to being a successful consultant and having them come back to you
Come
after
back to
that first contract, right? So that's always the goal is you don't, have a successful first project and then you're the one that they want to come back to. You're the one that they trust.
Okay. But what are the common mistakes the medtech companies make when scaling globally?
From the manufacturer side,
Yes, from the manufacturing
but
side.
oh, good question. I'd say probably scaling faster than they have the resources to support. I
Okay.
think from at least, and I'm speaking mostly from like a regulatory registration
Mm.
perspective, um, once you have that authorization, it doesn't stop there, right? So whether you have approval, clearance, authorization, CE mark, whatever, the obligations don't stop there. You have to maintain your technical documentation, sustaining work. All of that takes a lot of time,
Time.
resources. Especially if you have things going on at different times. So, maybe you have one US submission in progress and you have an EU and they want you to update some documentation. It's just, I have found that those that are trying to scale often scale too quickly, too fast, and don't, which you can do. You can scale quickly, but you need the support
Support
to
system.
do that. Yeah, the support system to do that exactly. So I think the other thing that I see, especially in submission work, is throwing things together for a submission, and then being in a mad rush because they get all these deficiencies back and they have to now do a huge remediation
Mm.
project under a time constraint. And that can really suck resources and also just delay overall time to market. So having high quality support early on, I think is also key to ultimately meeting your marketing goals and expansion goals.
What are common barriers preventing the collaboration across medtech stakeholders?
Ooh. This is a good question and something that I've actually been very interested in over the last year. I think one that I experience regularly is the idea that regulatory is a bit of an afterthought, whereas regulatory can really help frame development early on, having somebody involved. Not that they should be guiding the development, right? You have a patient, you have a clinical need,
Mm.
that should be your primary focus. However, there are some nuances that can be addressed early on from the regulatory perspective that can help. So, I think there's just general sometimes misunderstanding on the how much of an asset regulatory and quality support can be early on. But I think in the other direction, there's some misunderstandings from the regulatory quality side of what especially startups and VCs and things like that are up against early on when they're trying to raise funds to be able to actually have a company and put this product in the market in the first place, right? So I think there is definitely a gap in understanding between those stakeholders that prevent successful execution of a project and getting a product, to a market, being able to market it.
Okay. How does indieMedTech help professionals maximize the potential beyond the traditional career path?
Yeah, I love that question because that's really at the heart of why we started indieMedTech in the first place.
Mm.
I can tell you that, most people probably get opportunities through connection,
Mm.
not necessarily through just like raw applications for in a job posting anymore, right? Especially with the new environment of AI, screening applications, things like that. That connection and community actually opens up so many doors. When you can connect with someone,
That is true.
yeah, when you can connect to someone and they talk to you and they have a feeling for who you
Feeling.
are and how you manage a project, you are 10 times more likely to be the first person in their mind when they say, "Oh, I have a need. I have a client that has a need and that person could be the person that could help them." That alone, making that connection alone can open up so many doors and opportunities and chances just to connect with people in this way too, right? Even
Mm.
if it's
Mm.
not necessarily a client or a
Fine.
contract. It's, just knowledge sharing. So that's something that is really important to us. The other thing that we're really excited about was we just recently launched our library, and that's actually a area of the site where you can actually submit media. So, for example, if you have developed a great, an article that you have written about, I don't know, maybe the new proposed EUMDR amendments or something,
Mm.
or maybe you have a tool that you've developed that you are kind of trying on for size, or you have a interview that you were part of. We now have the library. You can submit that and be part of the library, our little mini library community of curated content for med tech professionals by med tech professionals. So that's something that we're really excited because I think especially in our current med tech space, especially on LinkedIn, there's a huge influx of independent authoring and Substacks and shows and webinars. That's really cool. So we're kind of excited to have a home for those people
Mm.
who are creating that type of content.
Okay. It's just for professionals or for the startup company too?
It is for anybody in medtech. So we really
Okay.
feel that anyone can benefit. So there are two, it is like a membership style. So there's two membership levels. So the first membership level is called a professional membership, and it's truly for anybody in medtech. So
Okay.
whether you are a marketing director or a, reg specialist one, you can have access to the website, to the library, to forums and groups where you can ask questions, respond to questions, engage in discussion.
Mm.
And then the second level is what's called the marketplace membership. And so the marketplace membership is, we like to call it like it's like a virtual Rolodex essentially.
Mm.
So anybody can access the marketplace. You don't have to have a membership to access the marketplace. And what you see on the marketplace is you'll see basically virtual business cards for independent consultants. You'll see business cards for like software engineers and EQMS or companies. And essentially, it's a spot where people can find the support that they need. If you want to have your own marketplace business card, then you
Hmm.
would get a marketplace membership. So that
Okay.
gives you visibility to that marketplace Rolodex, as well as access to our toolkit, which is some professionally developed templates. So,
It's
which is really helpful, especially if you leave
okay.
for example, a consulting firm and you don't have any more templates anymore, right? So supported by a great group of board members who are all experts in this area and have helped develop some of those tools as well.
What skills are becoming more critical for the medtech professionals today?
Oh, in terms of,
Can be AI or it can be any skill. What you can think of?
hmm, okay, so I mean, I think that AI, while important, is
Hmm.
proving to be not quite as important as we thought, at least
Okay.
at this stage. Now, don't
This
get me
stage.
wrong, I use AI, just to kind of help get me started, but it's just not quite robust enough. And there's obviously some confidentiality concerns with using some of the open source platforms. So, what I really think is just being execution focused. And I think that that's a skill that has always been critical in medtech and will never go out of style, right? So being able to not just talk about things to a client or whoever you're working with and say, but actually doing those things. I think that that's a critically important skill. Especially now, I think with AI, kind of expecting some faster turnarounds with certain things, right?
Mm, mm,
So
mm.
being able to efficiently execute, what's needed and is still and always will be very critical to professional success.
Okay. Where do you see the biggest opportunity for innovation in the medtech right now?
Ooh, like technologically?
Maybe AI.
Oh man, maybe. I think there's undoubtedly an opportunity there, right? That's being absolutely
Maybe submissions can be faster, right?
yeah. Oh, well, yeah, that would be great. Having just faster turnarounds and
Mm,
for submissions. And honestly, what that comes down to is just having more reviewers at these, whether it be notified body reviewers or FDA reviewers. You the fastest way to get a product on the market is to have a quick review. I think the other thing, though, too, is having the expertise and proper support to put together that first good package. So I know we're talking, specifically on submissions here, but that's one thing that really comes to mind. I think that what I think is the biggest opportunity still is more harmonization across
mm, mm,
different regions because I was just looking at something for Hong Kong and could we leverage the Australian checklist and well not really because it's slightly different but basically identical, those kinds of things. They're all time, that's all money, that's all resources, and there's no meaningful difference that
mm.
results in more effective or safe devices. And that's what it all comes down to, right? So that's where my head always is at the end of the day. So I think there's definitely some opportunity for advancements that would benefit the whole industry in
Okay.
harmonization as
Optimization. Okay.
well.
But how can the community-driven models accelerate the product development and the commercialization?
I think from a regulatory perspective or whole team perspective?
Uh, Probably you can say in general.
General,
General.
I think, yeah, I think that early on,
Mm,
having key stakeholders involved early on when you're
mm,
even
mm,
developing the possibilities of the product's initial form is very, very helpful
mm,
because different stakeholders like regulatory reimbursement you don't want to find out that those things could drastically impact your first beachhead product like 8 months in, right?
Mm,
You could that is all time potentially lost.
mm.
So I'd say having key stakeholders involved early on.
What role does digital transformation play in empowering the medtech professionals?
Oh, digital transformation. I think mostly it will help speed things up and
Speed
make
things up.
things, yeah. Like for example, I just recently noticed, I haven't been working with CFGs for a bit, and I just noticed that they now made all CFGs, or
Mm.
certificates for foreign government, electronic. Whereas before that was all done by paper. Like that actually has a big impact. It sounds small, but it actually has a big impact. Um, so I think that for anything, it will likely speed things up, and hopefully also something I'm very interested in is allow manufacturers to leverage things like real world evidence. Digitalizing patient data, of course, being made confidential, of course, allows us to really harness that data in a way that could move technology forward. So I think all the initiatives as well in real world evidence and real world data is also very interesting and very, ripe for the digitalization activities and things like that. And there will be more of that, especially in the EU with UniMed, and things like that. So I think that there's opportunities there as well.
In general, it can be a speed to market, right?
Yeah, what, real world evidence and real world data?
The
Or
digital
just,
transformation.
yeah, and yeah, digital transformation definitely has the potential to improve and or speed, access to markets. Yeah,
Access to
for
market.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. As a co-founder, what leadership lessons have you learned while building this network?
That's a very good question. I will say that
Mm,
I never envisioned myself, I kind of just fell here. Like, this is not, if you had told me this, I would be doing this a few years, I would be like, no way, there's no way. I think first and foremost, just being authentic
mm.
and knowing what you care about the most and letting that really drive you every day. Um, as a co-founder, I think that is the most important, or founder and co-founder, that is the most important thing. I'm very passionate about what I do, and so it
That's true.
makes me able to do this a lot, right? And when
That's
you're,
true.
yeah, when you're, founder or co-founder, whatever, you have to really love it, because there's a lot of parts that are, for me at least, dreadful, like the
Mm.
accounting part and that, all that kind of stuff. Like, and you got to do it all, especially if you're, a party of one or two. So
That's true.
having a passion for it is first and foremost very critical, knowing what is guiding you.
Getting you.
And then I think just being transparent with the people who are involved is also secondarily really critical. And trusting that what you are doing and who you have involved are there for a reason, and you're on the right path. And following that. And it's okay if you're not a wild success overnight. It's part of the process,
Process
and
process.
yeah. So I've been very fortunate so far, and have been working with some really fantastic people along the way over the last year, specifically Nikki Spaniel, the other co-founder of indieMedTech. I mean, her and I are just, we couldn't have done it without each other, and she has such a strong guiding light, that it has really made this possible. I mean,
Possible.
yeah, I mean, we have a standalone website platform that we're very proud of. And so, having the right people is also critical.
Critical. Correct. How do you measure success? By growth or by community impact?
Hmm. Um, for me personally, I guess kind of a little bit of both. That's a hard
Both. Yeah,
question to
that's true.
answer, right?
Yeah, yes.
It's not a community if it's a community of one. So,
Mm.
we constantly want to expand our community, because that's how we get in contact with more people, right? That's the essence of a community. But at the same time, we want to bring value to our community as well. And balancing those two things,
Two
that's
things.
that's the secret sauce, right? How do you got to invest in both growth and impact to really be truly successful. You can have growth, but if it's surface level, doesn't
No,
really matter, right?
right. What does inclusive leadership look like in the medtech innovation ecosystem?
I love that question. It looks like being open
Open.
to, yeah, just being open to listening, more listening, less talking.
Mm,
I've definitely been in positions where the organization was set up in a very siloed way, and the mindset brought to the table was stay in your lane. And I do not subscribe by that. While I don't, don't say don't give advice that you're not comfortable giving, not that, but um, it is a team sport bringing a device to market, and you need to be willing to engage your team and leverage each skill of your team, but also just be open to what they have to say. And if there is a problem, willingness to be all hands on deck and recognizing who those types of people are. That I think is critical, especially as a
critical.
leader and as a leader.
Okay. How do you envision the medtech landscape evolving over the next 5 to 10 years?
Um, something that I have observed and I think is really cool and love, and I think have started to become a little bit part of it is obviously there's so much emphasis on AI, and you
Mm,
can tell when content or things that are written are AI generated. When it first obviously came out, folks using that weren't as careful. And I
mm,
think now there's a little bit of a pushback to that and an increase in authenticity and some more genuine content. And I hope to see that grow a little bit more as well. There are a lot of content creators in the med tech space that are creating really awesome videos and
mm,
short clips and more like fun opportunities to engage with each other in the medtech community. And I think that that is so important because number one, it makes medtech fun, right?
mm,
And
mm, mm.
and it's so important, but also you want to be enjoying what you're doing, right? So, and it also is great way to introduce it to new people who are trying to see if they want to be part of this industry. So I think I think a push towards authenticity and maybe like smaller form content is what a trend that I have been seeing that I hope continues because the expertise is there, the passion is there, and I think we're at a place where people are realizing that there's other ways to use that passion and expertise, and it's coming in the forms of really interesting, engaging, and exciting content.
Correct. If you had to give one piece of advice to medtech innovators looking to expand globally,
Mm.
what would it be?
Start with a good plan. And that
Right.
plan is not just a list of countries. Start with a plan with timelines that are rooted in
Mm,
reality and
reality.
yes, with buffers because when you can take a step back and see what your overall plan is, there might be ways to order your actions to maximize your time and efficiency.
Mm,
So I think that starting off with a really good plan is really critical so that you understand exactly what is needed and can make decisions from there.
mm. Okay. Last question for today. If listeners take away one idea about collaboration in medtech, what should it be?
People are willing to collaborate with you in
Mm,
return. I have encounter very few people
mm,
who were not openly willing to talk to me. Like I mentioned before, the passion is there, the expertise are there, and it's a really vibrant industry to be part of, and I feel very grateful for that. So don't be afraid to just reach out to somebody. Message them on LinkedIn, send them an email if you come across that. If they don't respond, that's okay, but maybe they do, and it opens the door for a really amazing partnership or collaboration opportunity, or just somebody to have in your back pocket if you need to call, phone a friend for something else that comes up. I think that would be my biggest advice. Just don't be afraid to connect, because this industry, this community is so very open and generous with their expertise, and which is a really beautiful thing.
Thanks for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. It was truly interesting and insightful discussion. And thank you again for your time and sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been wonderful.